Welcome back. It's time for everyone's favorite sports debate here on Midco SN Head-to-Head, brought to you by Grand Falls Casino and Golf Resort. Quick rundown of the rules. We'd put two Midco personalities against each other. I ask up to 5 questions. They each have 30 seconds to prove their point. I decide who proved their point best, and I pick a winner. The first person to win 3 debates on the day is that day's champion. And going head-to-head today in another quarterfinal matchup with a season on the line, it's Alex Heinert up in Grand Forks, and right here in Sioux Falls, Mr. David Brown. We did a coin flip, and David got to call it. He lost, so Alex has elected to go first. Are you guys ready?
After that dramatic intro, how can we not be
Well,
ready?
I know. It's the quarterfinals.
I know. Season on the brink, Kelly. Here we go. Let's do it.
All right, I'm ready. Well, question number 1. In light of all the non-conference hoops invitationals going on this month, what's the best preseason college basketball tournament?
Well, for me, nostalgia would say the Great Alaska Shootout. I have great memories of staying up over Thanksgiving late into the night watching those teams play up north. But common sense would say that the Phil Knight Invitational out in Portland is probably the best when it comes to just pure basketball. When you look at the teams that were involved, and actually this was 2 tournaments, 16 teams getting together between the likes of Duke and Michigan State and North Carolina and Ohio State and every other team that has a Nike crest on their jersey. But the fact that the PK80 motion bracket has number 1 Duke beating number 5 Florida 87-84. Great game, great tournament. I've had some friends there as well, said it was like March Madness in November.
Ooh, all right. Okay, David.
I'm going to answer this a little bit differently. None of them are good. Don't get me wrong, I love college basketball, but honestly, it's about the matchups more than the tournaments. You had Kentucky, Kansas this year, and Michigan State versus Duke. So what preseason tournament was that? I had to look it up. The Champions Classic. The matchups are good. The tournaments aren't that great because teams ebb and flow based on different classes every single season. When's the last time you said during the big dance, hey, remember that great Maui Invitational from 1997? Or how about that Battle for Atlantis in the Bahamas? No one remembers these tournaments. They remember the matchups specifically. None of these tournaments are great. Only the big dance counts.
Hey, do you guys remember?
I'll give Dave that March Madness obviously is what ultimately matters. But I led this off by saying I have really good memories of watching the Great Alaska Shootout.
And
with
who
my
won
brother.
the Great Alaska Shootout when you were watching them all those years
Trajan
ago?
Langdon went off for Duke in like 1997 and had a crazy night. The native the Alaskan assassin in his home state.
Who won the Great
There's
Alaska
always
Shootout
something.
last year?
Well, of course, now it's become just a mid-major tournament. I want to say
Exactly.
Central Michigan,
No one
actually, I think,
cares
won it
about
last year.
these anymore.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going with David on that one. Just
Oh,
because
Kelly.
It made me laugh. Do you guys remember who won the Battle of Atlantis? That was my
That was a
favorite part.
real tournament this year, by the way, in the Bahamas.
Oh, yeah. I can't believe no one said Cancun because you get to stay at the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino all-inclusive resort for the USD women. All right, anyways, question number 2. David, you are up 1-0. More basketball. Which SDSU men's hoops team is the real one? The team that nearly upset number 6 Wichita State last night, or the one that lost by 20 to Missouri State 3 days earlier?
It's the one that nearly beat Wichita State last night, and it comes down to a simple thing, 3-point shooting. The Jacks have played 11 games this season. In 9 of them, they have made 8 or more 3-pointers, and the record in those 9 games is 7-2. They're 0-2 when they make less than 8 3-pointers. TJ Otzelberger, in his second season, said when he came to Brookings, he wanted his teams to play faster, more up-tempo, a more aesthetically pleasing brand of basketball. He has his recruits in here. The guys who were in the system last year can play faster this year. Missouri State's a good team, but the Jacks shot 3 of 24 beyond the arc in that game. Everyone has an off night. Once they get it going, they're more like the team that nearly upset the Shockers.
Ooh, all right, Alex.
I think it's going to be a little bit of both, actually, moving on until we get into the Summit League. I think when you look at this South Dakota State team, just like last year, obviously a little better than last year because they're 7-4 as opposed to being 3-11 or whatever they were at this point in the season. They're going to ebb and flow because their backcourt is still kind of figuring things out. And so until that solidifies, it comes down to Mike Daum. Is Mike Daum on or he's a little bit off? And against Missouri State, he had, 7 points on 3 of 14 shooting. Against Wichita State, 31 points, and he made 7 threes. Again, in games that South Dakota State has won this year, Daum has averaged 21 points a contest. When they've lost, he's averaged 12. That's a big difference between winning and losing, and it's all on number 24's shoulders.
It is always on 24 shoulders, but this year he has a better supporting cast. Guys like Lane Severn are making threes. Skylar Flatten's making threes. David Jenkins Jr., a true freshman off the bench, has scored in double figures in most of their games so far. It's not all on Mike Daum this year. It's about the 3-point shooting.
David. I feel like the supporting cast is better. They're playing a lot better together.
They struggled against Wayne State in the NSIC last year, and they nearly upset the Shockers yesterday. So that's the night and day difference between the two
I would
seasons.
just say, until they get it all kind of figured out. Well, you've seen that this season when they're a little up and down. They're going to be a little up and down until they get the supporting cast up and running. But that's just my thought.
Well, my whole thing, sorry to get on my soapbox, but their point guards right now, if they have Tevin King, who had 14 points and 9 assists against Wichita State, if he's off, then it seems like Brandon Keith steps up. So, or another guard. So I'm just David Jenkins Jr. So I'm with David on this one, Alex.
Fair enough. That's okay. I got 3 more questions to come back.
That's right. Positivity. Okay, question number 3. We're leaving the basketball court. We're going to the gridiron. The Vikings are 10-2, and a lot of players have been stepping up. We know about the big names like Case Keenum, Tom Neiman's favorite, Adam Thielen, and Xavier Rhodes. But who's a player that should be getting more credit than they're currently receiving?
I'll give you 5, and it's the 5 guys
thanks.
on the offensive line. I mean, this is the biggest difference from this team from last year to this year. So far this season, only 14 sacks allowed, second best in the NFL. Last year, over the course of a 16-game season, they gave up 38 sacks. That's 10th worst in the league. Case Keenum has had time to throw, and that's allowed this team to be able to move the football offensively. Same thing in terms of rush yards. They were in the mid-20s last year in terms of rushing per game. This season, again, coming in at number 6 in the NFL. And again, putting Pat Elflein in at center, having Riley Reif come in at left tackle, and Mike Remmers at right tackle, that's been the big difference for this team, and they've not gotten enough praise yet this year.
All right, David.
I will agree the offensive line is better, but keep in mind, Case Keenum's been pressured on nearly 40% of his pass plays, and he has the best QBR against the blitz. So that tells me he's better in the pocket as far as being mobile, and he's making better decisions than Sam Bradford. So I think Case Keenum is making the offensive line look a little bit better than they really are right now. The unsung hero is Eric Kendricks at linebacker. Leads the team in tackles with 87. The next closest is Harrison Smith with 62. What does that tell me? On those intermediate passing plays, Eric Kendricks isn't letting them get the first down because they're not attempting as many big plays from 10 to 20 yards. Kendricks having to take over a leadership role at linebacker has made a bigger impact.
I would say, couldn't you say because he's having such a big year, it's because of the guys up front that are freeing him up to make space? I think linebacker stats sometimes get inflated because of the play of the front 3 or the front 4. I think maybe that's a little bit of a case this year.
That may be true. The front 4 obviously gets him open space. But again, going back to your point about the offensive line, you could argue Case Keenum is making the line look better than they really are.
Well, and he certainly has. He's way more mobile than Sam.
I'm going with Alex on this one. I asked for 1 player, he gave me 5. I mean, what more can you ask for?
The question asked for 1 player, though.
Well, it's called extra credit. All right, question number 4. David, you are leading still 2-1. All right, question number 4. In light of rumors of a move to Kent State, Bob Nielsen confirmed to R.J. Elson that he's staying as the head football coach of South Dakota. On a scale of 1 to 10, how big is this for the Coyote program?
In terms of the question, it's a 10, but realistically, it's Buzz Lightyear to infinity and beyond. Keep this in mind. USD had its best season overall since 2006, best season overall since joining Division I, first appearance in the FCS playoffs. And keep in mind, since Bob Nielsen has been coaching at a place called Wartburg back in the early 90s, he has left every single coaching job with a better record than when he first took over the program. This is a guy who not only knows how to win and has seen it all, but he can recruit as well. I know a lot of Yote fans are a little worried with Chris Strevler leaving, but who's the person who got Chris Strevler to come away from my beloved Gophers who couldn't use him at all and come to USD? Bob Nielsen. They're in good hands in Vermillion. And
in good hands with Austin Simmons coming in next year. All right. Well, Alex, what do you think?
Austin Simmons, who was a Joe Glenn recruit, by the way. But for Dave, I agree this is a big deal, obviously, that he's staying. I wouldn't quite go to infinity. I think it's about a 7 or an 8. And Bob, again, in the 4 years in the Valley before Bob Nielsen came along, this team was 12-35. They've gone 12-12 over the last 2 years. And like Dave mentioned, all those accolades for this team, making it to the second round of the playoffs for the first time in history. But here's the thing. David Herbster, I think here's what you got to remember. Herbster has done a fantastic job of bringing in coaches. And so if Nielsen were to leave, that would throw off the momentum, would throw off a lot of things. But he also hired Nielsen, Craig Smith, Don Plitzowite, even Leanne Williamson. He's done a great job of bringing in people that matter. So 8 or 10, 8 out of 10, that's about right. Anything beyond that, I think you put your faith in the AZ. No. Infinity and beyond. You got to go with the Buzz Lightyear metric. I'm going with the Buzz Lightyear metric. I love Toy Story. Of course you would. Here's the thing. I know that it's messy right now in terms of college coaching system. Look at Tennessee, who's in it's a tire fire inside a dumpster that's on fire. But I think if you have faith in your athletic director, Herbster brings in good people.
He does.
I think they'll be okay. So Kelly, you're telling me that if Bob Nielsen left this year, USD would be in shambles next season.
Do you want to know my real opinion?
If you say infinity, that's what you're saying. Give it to me.
Okay, here's my real opinion. I don't even like this question because I think the rumors are dumb and no one should believe them in the first place, and Bob wasn't going anywhere. There, I said it. That's my opinion. But anyways, Alex, you lost. Your season is over. Thank you
Best
so
of luck,
much
Dave,
for
in the
playing,
future.
guys.
Thank you, sir.
All right, if you have any topics or questions you'd like debated, join the conversation and let us know. You can tweet them at me. That's at Stewart MidcoSN, or to our network account at MidcoSN. We would love to hear from you per usual. And coming up after the break, for the second time in a week, the Jackrabbit women welcome another Power 5 opponent to Frost Arena. We'll preview Oklahoma at South Dakota State in women's hoops next on Midco Sports Tonight.